My husband left our 5-year-old and 9-month-old home alone and refuses to explain why. My husband is 43 and I'm 31. We've been married for 7 years and have a 5-year-old and a 9-month-old. My husband left our children alone and he refuses to admit to it or tell me where he was. I'm furious, enraged, and my husband keeps telling me I'm making a big deal about nothing. This just happened this weekend. I am on the board of directors for a local nonprofit organization. I had to attend an event for that organization this past Saturday, and I was gone for most of the day. My husband was supposed to be home with our kids. I texted him a few times and he responded. When I called around midday, he didn't respond, but that's not very unusual. Shortly after that, I got a call from my mom. She said my son had just called her, and when she asked him what he and his sister were doing, he said they were both watching TV. When she asked where their dad was, he said his dad wasn't there. My mom asked him several other questions, and from my son's responses, she believed he was telling the truth and that my husband wasn't there and that there was no adult there at all. She said he didn't seem scared to be alone or worried about where his dad was. He just called her to chat. He has a tablet designed for children with pre-programmed contacts that he can call. It's only a few people, just family members. I left the event immediately and began texting and calling my husband repeatedly. He didn't respond to my first several attempts. It took him about 10 minutes, I was halfway home at that point, to respond. I was so confused, so worried, really mad, and I asked him where he was. He said he was at home. I told him our son had just told his grandmother that he was home alone with his baby sister watching TV about 15 minutes ago. My husband denied it, and I told him I was too upset to talk and drive. When I got home, I checked on the kids right away and they were both fine. I asked my husband again, where was he? He said he was home the entire time. He didn't know what our son was talking about, but he must have just been confused since he had gone to the basement to do some laundry. I ran down to the basement. It was the same load of laundry I'd thrown in the dryer the night before. He didn't do any laundry when I was gone. I asked my husband why my son would be confused about whether his dad was home or not. Where in our home would he have gone, and for how long for our son to think his dad wasn't home? That doesn't make sense with a 5-year-old and a 9-month-old. You wouldn't leave them unattended that long. Why was he nowhere to be found when my mom asked my son to go check certain areas of the house? I begged my husband to just admit it, to stop treating me like an idiot, and to stop accusing our son of lying. Just tell me the truth, because being lied to right to my face is so incredibly maddening. He insists he was home, but he can't come up with any believable story of where he was at or what he was doing during that time. The way he answers me when I ask him about this and demand truthful answers is so dismissive. When I tell him, "You left our children alone," he quickly says, "No, I didn't, so anyway." He says I'm overreacting and letting our son's imagination drive me crazy. I am convinced he was gone. We don't have a Ring camera, but at least one of our neighbors does. I'm so upset about this that I'm tempted to ask our neighbor for the Ring footage. I had to go out to my car and scream and cry because I got so upset. Of course, I didn't want my kids to see my reaction. I can't put into words how upset I am about the fact that I know he must have really left them alone, but have no proof and am being treated like I'm just a paranoid nutcase of a mother/woman by him. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. It's either drugs or an affair. Also, the fact that your 5-year-old was calm and nonchalant about the situation makes me believe that he does this frequently enough that the kids are used to it. OOP, my mom said she and my son chatted for at least 5 minutes before she asked him where his dad was, and when she asked that, she still didn't think anything was wrong. She was just trying to make conversation. He gave no indication that anything was wrong, and when she started asking him more questions regarding his dad's whereabouts, he didn't seem fazed. Commenter 2, I agree that it's either drugs or an affair if he's truly leaving them alone. To ease your mind, get the footage from your neighbor, but do not tell him. Furthermore, given your son's nonchalance about being left alone, this may not be the first time your husband has done this. Ask your son. Aside from the fact that this is highly dangerous, there are legal ramifications that the both of you can face should the authorities be alerted that the children are being left home alone. You should also get nanny cams. These are discrete cameras unlike a Ring camera. Place them in strategic locations throughout your home. OOP, he definitely won't be left alone with them anymore, unless it's a test where I am secretly watching the entire time. Does OOP's husband have any accounts that she wasn't aware of? Such as banks, etc. OOP, he has a separate bank account that I don't have access to. It's not a secret account. I know it exists. I don't have a debit card for it, I'm not named on the account, and I don't have his login details. I have no clue what's in it. We have a joint account too. He has his own credit cards. I don't know what's on those either. Commenter 3. I feel like the timeline is weird. How did your husband get home in the 10 minutes since he answered your phone call and you got there? Doesn't mean I think he's telling you the truth, and I think you should get the ring footage to put either claim to rest. Is your husband friends with any neighbors? OOP. If he was within 10 minutes from our house. Well, he speeds on a good day, so if he was in his car and within 20 minutes of our house, he technically could have got home in time. I've wondered if he actually got my initial panicked calls and texts, didn't answer, started racing home, and then finally picked up once he was home so he could pretend he was there all along. Additional information from OOP on her conversation with her 5-year-old son regarding her husband/his father. OOP. I talked to him after I calmed down a little bit. His story was virtually the same as what he'd told my mom, with a few more details, but nothing that gave me any clue about what my husband was up to. I asked him what he did when I was gone. He said Daddy made him pancakes and they drank coffee outside. My 5-year-old doesn't actually drink coffee, but he pretends to drink it in the morning, and he likes to sit outside with his hot coffee. His sister had a giant poop explosion, and of course he remembered that, and apparently Dad was there to clean that up because he said she pooped everywhere, and he had to help Dad give her a bath, and it was disgusting. Curious that my husband supposedly did laundry, but left the poop-covered onesie unwashed. That was the highlight of his day, and he loved telling me about how gross it was. I asked him if Daddy left. He said, yeah, Daddy left, like it was no big deal. I asked him what he did when Daddy was gone. He said he watched TV. I asked him what he watched. I asked him what his sister, 9-month-old baby, was doing when Daddy was gone, and he said she was in the living room watching TV with him too. I asked him if he was sure Daddy was gone. He said, yeah, Daddy wasn't home. I asked him how he knew, and he said Daddy's keys were gone and Daddy told him to stay in the living room with his sister. He has no real concept of time, so asking him how long Daddy was gone for wouldn't really mean anything. I didn't want him to feel like he was in trouble, or like I was grilling him, and it sort of seemed like that's how he started to feel when I kept asking questions. Update: 4 days later. Last weekend, my husband left our 5-year-old and 9-month-old home alone while I was gone, and then refused to admit it or provide a plausible explanation. Since then, we had many arguments about it. I've been living in a constant state of anger and frustration. I didn't want to fight about it anymore, but I couldn't help it and I kept bringing it up again and again. I couldn't lay low and pretend to get over it while I waited for him to do it again and catch him in whatever was going on. I also knew that demanding he tell me the truth wasn't going to get me anywhere, since he'd been refusing to talk and deflecting for days. All it was doing was making me enraged and feel like I was about to have a brain aneurysm. I told him to hand me his phone so I could check his location at the time. He refused. He said he wouldn't do it and that it was a violation of his privacy. He won't be treated that way and refuses to give in to my delusions. You think I enjoy being in a situation where I have to beg my husband to show me his phone so I can see where he is? I hate it. I don't want to live that way. I told him it's simple. If he was really at home the entire time, just prove it. Why wouldn't he want to clear this whole thing up? I got so mad that he wouldn't turn over his phone that I told him I was going to the neighbors to get their doorbell footage. At first he was like, fine, go do it. He didn't think I actually would. He knows I don't like to air drama to others, so he probably figured I'd just swallow all of this crap he's been giving me. Luckily, I was totally being driven by anger at this point, so nothing was going to stop me from going to the neighbors. When I actually started to go out the door, he tried to stop me and followed me out the door. I felt pure anger rushing through my veins, nothing else. The neighbor, who I've probably said less than 10 words to in the entire time we've lived here, told me he'd send me the footage. I went home, told my husband that the neighbor didn't have the footage from that day anymore, and told him I just needed to go to the store and cool off. So I put the kids in the car and went and parked somewhere while I waited for the neighbor to send me the footage. I have the neighbor's number now too, and he told me if I need any more footage, he will be happy to give it to me. The video shows a blue car that I don't recognize show up and park in our driveway. A blonde woman gets out of the car and goes towards my house. She walks on the outside of our garage toward the gate leading to our backyard. The gate is too far back and out of the way to be seen on the doorbell footage. She and her car was there for 23 minutes. Imagine that. The car leaves right around the time that my husband called me to say he was home and had been home the entire time, as I was rushing home in a panic and calling him on repeat. One of two possibilities as to where they went. She either came in through the side door of the house, which does provide direct access to the basement, or, and what I think is more likely, is that they were in the backmost area of our yard, which is a gated pool area. Immediately behind our house is a grass lawn, then you step down a few steps and we have a patio, and then there's a fully gated area where the pool is. It's not like you think of when you picture a gated pool. It's a full 6-foot wood fence all the way around, plus even taller landscaping for added privacy. You can't see into the area at all unless you're inside. I think it's more likely that they were back there because my son said his dad's keys were gone and we keep that gate locked with a key. The pool is closed for winter, but there is one small building back there, sort of like a shed we converted into a changing area, and there is a covered patio with furniture. I'm convinced that's where they were. So technically he was home, but in an area totally removed from the house and where he couldn't see or hear the kids if something happened. I asked him how he could explain this. What were they doing? I obviously don't need him to tell me what they were doing, but for some reason I still had hope that he'd finally be honest. He wasn't contrite. He showed no remorse. He was just like, yeah, she was here, but I obviously never left. Who is she? How long has this been going on? And if he's going to be such a disgusting, despicable excuse of a man, then why couldn't he at least have found any other time and any other lie or excuse other than when he was home alone with our kids? I told him I know this has happened before, and I demanded to know how many times he's done this when he's been home alone with the kids. He swears this is the only time, but he still doesn't have the balls to confess to what they were doing. I don't believe him that this was the only time, FYI. I still have so many questions, and I still feel like my heart is beating 200 times a minute. My blood pressure is through the roof. I've cried a lot, sobbed, begged for somebody to help me, yelled, screamed, ordered a bunch of books about divorce and custody. And you know what? The next day after our multiple explosive fights, him putting his hands on me, and me seeing the evidence, he acted like everything was totally normal and like none of that stuff ever happened. I woke up still seething, exhausted, broken, and he's acting like everything is totally normal. He said he was ordering breakfast to be delivered from our favorite breakfast place. He asked if I wanted to go to the store together later and try this new recipe for chili tonight. What? Why would I want to do any of these things with you now? Absolutely no acknowledgement of anything he's done or what's transpired between us in the past few days. He deserved an Oscar for how well he was able to act like none of that happened, completely comfortable and non-fazed. I know that it's a waste of my energy, but I just desperately want him to admit the full truth of what he did that day and any other day with this woman. I want to hear it from him. It won't change whatever he's done, but he could at least have the respect and decency to be honest now that he's been caught. That's a ridiculous thought though, right? How foolish of me to expect this man to show decency and honesty now. If he was a decent and honest man, then he wouldn't have had a strange woman over to our house and been out of sight from our kids for 23 minutes. His continued denial and refusal to admit to anything other than the bare minimum, his attitude like I'm somehow being controlling or infringing on his rights by asking for information. That's almost more hurtful than him cheating on me. Relevant comments. Commenter 1, so he effed a blonde in the back while leaving the kids unsupervised. Sorry, but that is the only explanation. He wasn't planning a surprise for you. He wouldn't shit on the kids' safety for that. He left the kids alone for something selfish. And he was brazen and comfortable enough to bring his side piece to your house. At this point, every word out of his mouth has been a lie. You should ask the neighbor if he's seen that car before. OOP, I know they were effing. I'm not trying to delude myself into thinking she came over to talk or for a cup of tea. I just want him to admit it. It's driving me crazy that he won't admit to it even though he's been caught. Commenter 2, OP, he has not been honest and won't be honest. Even if he is, what would that give you? Could you even believe it? OP, you know what he was doing. You don't need him to spell it out for you. Put yourself and your children first. OOP, at the end of the day, him admitting to what he's done wouldn't really change anything. It certainly won't change anything he's done. It won't make it better. And I probably still wouldn't believe I was getting the full truth. Yet, I can't stop seething over the fact that he's refusing to give me any info. Commenter 3, weird thing is, if he showed his location, it would have been at home and probably put you more at ease that he didn't leave. He is garbage, especially to be doing that ish when he has the kids, leaving them on their own. He'd rather cheat and possibly risk his kids getting hurt or dying. Disgusting. OOP, yes. It doesn't make sense. Why wouldn't he have just given me his phone? It makes me think that there are other things on his phone besides his location that he doesn't want me to see. Commenter 4. I'm really concerned for your mental health. I read the original post too. Maybe I watch too many psychological thrillers, but this comes across like he's a psycho intent on making you look unhinged so he can admit you to a psych ward, or at least divorce you, get out of alimony and child support, and keep the house and kids. I'd pack the kids up if I were you, go to your parents for a bit and cool off. Call a lawyer stat. Start the divorce and keep that recording. OOP. I'm concerned for my mental health right now too.